Good afternoon, everyone. It's time for more stories of Sodor. We're nearing the end of the season now, only 3 more episodes to go. In 2 weeks' time, it'll be the final episode of season 6. Now then. So, before we begin though, for those wondering why I didn't do a reaction to the last episode, I did. It was during my 12-hour live stream last week. Um, I I've been considering um, recording that reaction that I did live, editing it down, and posting it as I did with all these other reactions. Haven't really had time though. I've been focusing on Raptor Dog's writing. But anyway, just wanted to explain why I didn't do a video reaction last week. But just so you know, I did react to the previous episode and I did enjoy it. Anyway, this episode seems like a very interesting one. Hold on. Yeah, it seems like a very interesting one. A musician who lives in a dilapidated house and is probably mentally unstable from what I saw from the preview of this episode. I reckon this is going to be another spooky episode that's going to end with something horrifying. Am I right, though? Let's find out. Let's begin the reaction in 3, 2, 1.
The train, for its type, is the most powerful vehicle on land. And the engines of Sodor are the power behind the docks, industries and branch lines that make up the world-renowned Northwestern Railway. These are the stories of Sodor.
So great that the Arsdale engines that have been shown in the intro for so long are finally part of the actual series. Oh, looks like Victor mistakenly used the intro featuring Dudley. Oh well, doesn't matter. He's been using a Garrett in place of Dudley after Dudley died in episode 4, but oh well. When we're going to see.
Ask any navvy what the hardest part of building a railway is and they'll likely say the grading. This is when the land is altered to accommodate the needs of a proposed line, whether it has to be flattened, raised, lowered and so forth. This is a time-consuming process and can be very difficult depending on the terrain. So the workers on the Arsdale Railway have to be flattened, raised, lowered and so forth. This is a time-consuming process and can be very difficult depending on the terrain. So the workers on the Arsdale Railway were positively giddy when they learned they didn't have to worry about any of that. Thanks to the preceding Mid-Sodor Railway, the region had already been modified accordingly. Aside from repairing some bridges and removing a few trees, most of the work consisted of just replacing the track, which was pretty straightforward. A few trees had already been modified.
Once again, I really like how Victor is now including more background sound effects and things. Really ups the quality, as I said.
Accordingly, aside from repairing some bridges and removing a few trees, most of the work consisted of just replacing the track, which was pretty straightforward. This was how they were able to reach Arsdale so quickly. While this was going on, a few region had already been modified accordingly. Aside from repairing some bridges and removing a few trees, most of the work consisted of just replacing the track, which was pretty straightforward. This was how they were able to reach Arsdale so quickly. While this was going on, the ballast mine was being constructed. After the line reached the site, they spent the next few months installing the necessary infrastructure, and on April 1st, 1968, the railway and the mine were open for business. Bust my butt! They spent the next few months installing the necessary infrastructure, and on April 1st, 1968, the railway and the mine were open for business. Bust my buffers! 68, the railway and the mine were open for business. Bust my buffers! You gentlemen work fast. We had a similar setup on our old railway, so this is nothing new. But this is fizzling fireboxes. I can't believe we're still running passenger trains. Don't worry, Mike. I spoke to Mr. Mannering and he's going to take you off passenger duty soon. Really? How soon? Next April Fools! Oh, all right, you got me. Well done. Now that's it. You know the deal. What deal? Back on our old railway, we had an arrangement when it came to April Fools. We would only play a single prank on each other, and I think it's time to change that. Like you said, Bert, this is a fresh start. Don't you dare! One is already too much. Yes, as much as I enjoy having a laugh, I think it would be best if we stuck with the current system. Fine, then so will I. For now. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Rex, what are you planning? Nothing, I swear. System. Fine, then so will I. For now. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Rex, what are you planning? Nothing, I swear. Are you planning something? No, but it'll be so much fun making them think I am. You can be real devious sometimes. Only sometimes. I'll have to work on that. Oh, hello. Good afternoon, madam. This isn't a pedestrian bridge. For your own safety, I must insist that you leave. Yeah, sure. Sorry. I just want a better view of the river. My husband's a fisherman. I was hoping I'd be able to see his boat from here. Have you spotted it by any chance? It's called the Silver Krill. Can't say I have. Oh dear, he should have been back by now. I'm sorry about that. I'll keep my eyes open and let you know if I see anything. Thank you. I'll be on my way then. Goodbye. It was such a depressing tune. Me and my driver were nearly reduced to tears. And you say it came from that old tune.
So the actual music from the episode, Rex is actually hearing. That's interesting.
It was such a depressing tune. Me and my driver were nearly reduced to tears. And you say it came from that old house opposite the school? Who would live in a dump like that? And what sort of dump like that has a piano? I don't know, but if I never hear that song again, it'll be too soon. Getting back to the missing fisherman, have either of you seen his boat? The Silver Krill? No. What about you, Mike? Nope. Maybe he got shanghaied by pirates. That's not funny, Mike. His wife looked really worried. Understandable. The best we can do is keep our eyes peeled for the vessel. Morning, Bert.
Music that's being used in the episode, the sad piano music, is music that the engines can now actually hear.
Keep our eyes peeled for
Very
the vessel.
very clever meta work there, Victor.
Morning, Bert. Oh, hello, Aiden. How are you? Better than you, it seems. Why the long face? I just heard this rather sad music coming from the Fletcher house. Is that it? The one opposite the school? That's it, all right. It's the home of my old music teacher, Mrs. Fletcher. Why would she live in such shabby conditions? It's her choice. Just about everyone's offered to help fix up the place, but she prefers to keep it as is. She wants her husband to have something to do when he gets back. Is her husband a fisherman aboard the Silver Krill? Ah, so you finally met her. Not me. Rex has. He found her standing on the bridge looking down over the river. Waiting for her husband as usual. Even after all these years, it still breaks my heart. What do you mean by all these years? Damn it. Sorry, Bert, I have to take care of this. I'll tell you the whole story later. Mrs. Fletcher? Yes? Don't worry, I'll stay off the bridge. I'm sorry if I got in the way of your mate. No, that's quite all right. Rex told us about your husband. I wanted to ask if he's returned yet. No, he hasn't. I hope he gets back soon. There are some loose floorboards in the kitchen that need fixing, among other things. If you like, ma'am, I could ask some of our workers if they'd be willing to lend a hand. I'm sure they already have. They're mostly locals, aren't they? I even taught a few of them the piano when they were young. Was one of your students named Aiden? Aiden O'Hara, yes. All thumbs, but he tried his best. I see. Well, thank you for your time, ma'am. I'll be on my way now. And I should move closer to the riverbank. I want to make sure my husband can see me properly. She was Aiden's teacher? Maybe it's just me, but I thought they were about the same age. So did I. Perhaps she's discovered the fountain of youth. It might also give her a light touch. When she walked away, she didn't make a sound. Bust my buffers. I didn't even realize that until you mentioned it just now.
Didn't make a sound. Shows history. I wonder if Mrs. Hayden is a ghost. We shall have to wait and see.
Found. Bust my buffers. I didn't even realize that until you mentioned it just now. There's something very odd about that woman. And after what Gordon told us, I think she's a couple of chords short of a symphony. Why? What did he say? We mentioned the silver krill when he was here earlier. Turns out he knew about it. She disappeared back in 1941 alongside her captain, Horace Fletcher. They launched a massive search but didn't find a wreck or a survivor. He was declared lost at sea. Fizzling fireboxes. That's awful. So she's standing vigil for a man who will never return? That is heartbreaking. More like pitiful. How can someone be so daft as to waste their life like that? Shut your gob, Mike. Grief affects everyone differently. That is
Mrs. Fletcher does seem to be living quite a tragic life.
heartbreaking. More like pitiful. How can someone be so daft as to waste their life like that? Shut your gob, Mike. Grief affects everyone differently. But you can't wallow in it or you'll end up, well, like her.
Exactly. Mike is very right. I hate to see people wallowing in grief for like days or even weeks on end, and this woman's been wallowing in her grief for 27 years. Bloody depressing.
How can someone be so daft as to waste their life like that? Shut your gob, Mike. Grief affects everyone differently. But you can't wallow in it or you'll end up, well, like her. And I'll be sure to tell her that if I ever see her. You will do no such thing. If you do come across Mrs. Fletcher, you will offer your condolences.
I wonder if Mike is gonna say that to her and if he does, what it's gonna do to her mentally.
Everyone differently. But you can't wallow in it or you'll end up, well, like her. And I'll be sure to tell her that if I ever see her. You will do no such thing. If you do come across Mrs. Fletcher, you will offer your condolences. And if you don't, her husband won't be the only one lost at sea. Understood?
Ah,
Yes, Bert. Mrs. Fletcher, I take it. That's right. Nice to meet you. Mike, is it? Yes, ma'am. And I want to offer my condolences over the loss of your husband. Mrs. Fletcher, I take it. That's right. Nice to meet you. Mike, is it? Yes, Mum. And I want to offer my condolences over the loss of your husband. So you believe he's gone too? Don't you, Mum? If I did, I wouldn't be waiting for him. With all due respect, Mum, that's a mistake. Why? Because he vanished, 27 years ago? Have you ever heard of someone coming back after being gone that long? No, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Maybe not, but it is highly unlikely. You're not doing yourself any favors by wasting away here. Is that what your husband would have wanted? When he comes back, I'll ask him. I appreciate your concern, Mike, but you don't need to worry. I have all the time in the world. Rex, get the gangplank. I was thinking more the cat o' nine tails. I'm sorry, I lost my temper. The sheer delusion, it reminded me of Matilda? Yes, watching her crumble was bad enough. The cat o' nine tails. I'm sorry, I lost my temper. The sheer delusion, it reminded me of Matilda? Yes, watching her crumble was bad enough. I don't ever want to see that again. So you're going to try and save Mrs. Fletcher? If I can. Don't bother, Mike. We've all tried. Aiden, what are you doing here? I promised to tell you the whole story, didn't I? So what do you know? Her husband died at sea in 1941. He sure did. I was 8 years old when it happened. I remember the whole town mourned his passing. Of course, his wife took it the hardest. Happened. I remember the whole town. 41. He sure did. I was 8 years old when it happened. I remember the whole town mourned his passing. Of course, his wife took it the hardest. She stopped teaching and would spend hours every day standing on the riverbank, certain her husband would come back. And at the end of those days, she would stroll home and play sad songs on the piano. This went on for weeks until her house was bombed during the Blitz. Blimey, some people have all the luck. It's a miracle she survived. She didn't. She died that night. A
I knew it. She's a. The fact that Bert said she didn't make a sound when she walked away, that gave it away. She's a ghost. I knew it.
Her house was bombed during the Blitz. Blimey, some people have all the luck. It's a miracle she survived. She didn't. She died that night. Aiden, are you saying she's a ghost? Yes, Bert, I am. All right, you're either late for this April Fool's or early for the next one. Regardless, I'm running you over for that sick joke. I'm not joking, Mike. It's true. Spend a bit more time on this island and you'll learn ghosts aren't exactly uncommon. Is that why nobody told us about Mrs. Fletcher? Yeah, we've all gotten used to her around here. And it's not like she causes problems. I'm guessing you've all spoken to her. Does she come across as some howling banshee? No, she comes across as a woman that needs help. And like I said, we've all tried, but she's determined to stay. We've resigned ourselves to that fact. I think you should too. He was right. This island does have a history with the paranormal. Did you know about Mrs. Fletcher? Did the Sodor chaps? Yes and yes. On behalf of everyone, I'm sorry for not telling you. I guess it wouldn't have made much difference. It still burns me up. How could someone waste their life like that, even if it is eternal? Love makes us do foolish things. Don't I know it? Damn that woman. You're taking this rather personally, Mike. Is there a reason for that? Yes. Back on my old railway, I was friends with this local girl named Matilda. She was such a sweetheart. She was engaged to a soldier who went missing during the war. Matilda was so certain he would come back. She held on to that belief right up until we came here. By then, she was so hollowed out by sadness that I hadn't seen her smile for nearly 10 years. Mrs. Fletcher reminds me of her. Perhaps you should try sharing that story with her. Maybe if she sees a parallel to her situation, she might move on. It's worth a shot. What have we got to lose? She never found anyone else? Others were interested, but she turned them away. She turned everyone away. And she hadn't smiled in 10 years? No. How long has it been since you smiled? A lot longer. Mrs. Fletcher, do you enjoy living like this? No, I don't. Then for your own sake, move on. Horace could be waiting for you right now. Why don't you go to him? Because what if he's not there? What if I miss him here? If I ever see a ship called the Silver Krill, I'll shout out to its captain, "Your good lady has moved on. Go find her." That's what you'll say? You promise? I swear. All right then, it's time for me to go. Thank you, Mike. But before I leave, one last encore.
No animation from Edward. Wow. Brilliant episode. Troublemaker was still the best one for me, but this one has without question been the most heartwarming. Miss Mrs. Fletcher's gone up to her husband. How sweet. Well done, Victor. A fantastic episode. I'm looking forward to the final 2 episodes of this season. Protests and Adjustment. At least I think that's what they're called. Wow. Well done, Victor. Anyway, that's going to do it for this reaction, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Please like, comment, share this video with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to me, TrainLava16, if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Victor Tanzig if you haven't already. And I will see you all in my next video. Goodbye, everyone!